It's the $1 million question. Trent Alexander-Arnold. Is he a midfielder? Is he already playing in midfield? Is he good enough to play as a midfielder? Is he a 6? Is he an 8? Is he a 2? Is he a 10? Gareth Southgate seems to think he's a 10. Nubaid, Liverpool fan, Liverpool watcher, Trent lover. What do you think about Trent Alexander-Arnold? Give me a number. What number is he?
He's not a 6. I think he's a right-sided 8. Almost in the De Bruyne mould where you have a player.
So let me start with that. So him not being a 6, why is he not a 6?
I think when you play as a 6 in a team like Liverpool or City, or when you're competing for games, occasionally when you're receiving the ball from deep, you're going to get pressed, and occasionally you're not. But you've always got to be scanning. And listen, Trent might be watching this and go, I can definitely scan. I just think when I see Rodri and he picks the ball up from the centre-backs, Rodri's got a picture in his mind and he can play 5 different passes. I think Trent's game and where he's most dangerous and most prolific is when he's got the pitch in front of him, which is why he's been so dangerous from right-back, because you can go pick the ball up and go, I've got 7 options and they all go ahead of me and I can play any single pass of those. When you're picking the ball up from the goalkeeper and centre-back, you need to be a very high-volume passer, and I don't think he can be, but I don't think that's his best position.
I agree with you. I think the bravery to turn in that scenario, and in particular the game last week against Man City, I was watching him for that to see, because they wanted to play through. But first of all, those 2 centre-backs did not trust him with the ball. He did not, in the first 18 minutes, he did not have a touch in that centre midfield area. Yeah. Because he's kind of surrounded, he said in his post-match interview afterwards, he thought Bernardo Silva was, on him all the time. Bernardo Silva is the worst player to play against in centre midfield because, in the best possible way, I think he's one of the best players in the Premier League. He's a rat. Like, he is just scurrying around.
He's a wasp when you
all
have
the
your
time.
lunch, isn't he? You know what I mean?
Yeah, wasp's probably better. But so for Trent, that is the highest level of football that you're probably going to have to play in terms of getting on the ball. But if you want to play through a team, and with a 6, that 6 has to be brave enough to get the ball in a half turn and play through. And he doesn't have that just yet. Now, and I agree with you. I think he's higher up the pitch because of that. But as that 6, to have that picture and also possibly the dribbling ability as well to get yourself out of it, I haven't seen it yet. I don't want to put that on him and say that he can't do it, but I haven't seen it yet.
The one thing I would very quickly say is I actually think he could play as a 6 because of Liverpool competing against for the title, etc. So most teams that you come up against, he will actually be able to pick the ball up. Yeah. So probably in 32, 33 games in the season, you will escape. But these days, the Premier League is decided by beating City and beating Arsenal, and those teams will find you out. And then when you go in the Champions League, those teams will find you out as well. So then it's a case of, we've got to find a different type of position for him. This graphic that I've got in front of me from Mark Stats, if you don't follow him, you should. It's about progression efficiency, and Liverpool's progression efficiency in the middle of the park is non-existent. It's completely black, right. And essentially either has to be red or blue to prove whether you're above or below the average. Liverpool have 0 progression efficiency in that area, which speaks to the fact why they're trying to go, please go and play in there, because only you can pass like anyone else in the league. That's kind of the problem at the moment.
It's a bit of a bugbear of mine. I think people tend to presume that a good passer would be a good midfielder. I don't think football's that simple. I think what makes a great midfielder is usually your understanding of the game and the 360 vision and knowing exactly where everyone is on the pitch at all times. Especially exactly. And I think the thing that I don't think Trent's a good 6 is a 6, even though he's an 8. I think you have to be very willing to sacrifice a lot of your game and play the simple passes. Most of being a 6 is really boring. I think he wants to be, because it's inherently who he is, the guy making those passes, and I think that's fine because that's what he is, and I think it suits his game. But I don't think he's willing just to knit 10 passes together, gently receiving from. I think that's where he would be at his most suited. But football isn't that anymore, and I think the solution that Klopp came up with years ago, right back in a team that
like aggressive 8, like attacking 8, because I think he needs an element of width there. But what you will see time and time again, Kevin De Bruyne or Kieran Trippier are great examples of it, and Trent himself, is being able to put in a beautiful cross. Trent has done that brilliantly, but I guess they want to kind of get him there as much as possible because it doesn't really matter where his starting point is. I guess the defensive side of it, do you want to get him away from being a right back? Just to allow yourself, because that is in any preview, a team will go, this is the area that we sort of try and get at them.
And I think Klopp would say to you immediately, but we have won the league with him there. We've won the Champions League. We've been in a Champions League final. We've won every other competition.
It's maybe worth a compromise, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
So you wouldn't buy a right back?
I personally wouldn't, because I think you then have to sacrifice a midfielder, and then who are you going to sacrifice? And then it also sacrifices the style. Liverpool's style of play is tilted to the way Trent plays. It's all on that side. And so then you go, okay, Trent, you're now playing as a right-sided 8. New dynamic of how you actually like to play football.
I wonder if the issue is more not that it's Trent, it's more that it's Trent and Robertson at the same time. You think about City, for a long time, we sort of compromised having left back because Cancelo was just brilliant going forward, which meant that Walker sort of just sat back and became a back three. I mean, we had that defensive ability because we've got a great, probably the best defensive full-back in world football on the other side. But Robertson is such an attack-minded player too. You know, he wants to get forward and spread width and cross the ball. But then you've got Trent who wants to do the same. So in football, it was normalised for a long time just to have your two centre-backs there and your midfielders cover. But that's not how the game's moved. I wonder if you need... To me, I don't think I want him closer to the goal if I was the Liverpool manager, because 8 is in the pockets. It's those little subtle touches. So Bosley's a more natural 8. McAllister is, in my opinion. And I think you have to maybe consider the shape of the team around him as opposed to him being the problem.
I said this name in the summer, and I still completely stand by it, because I think also one thing to remember is this isn't a video game. Like, you're going to get better at a position the more you play it. And so for him to have that opportunity, and I think you make a great point there in terms of the teams that you're going to play against, that Man City game, for him to have to go in there, I think it was too much for him. And that's when the second half, Liverpool were better because they went round instead of trying to go through. But in other games, I think there is an opportunity for him to get the air miles of those positions. And so Kyle Walker-Peters, for me, a 26-year-old who's played for England, is currently in the Championship with Southampton, but was a good performer in the Premier League as well. Someone who I think would enjoy, obviously, playing in European football, would be of use a lot of the time. I think for the other 60% of the games, I think he would be a great option for them. The fact that the pressure on Trent to have to play right back is also a bit of a problem. And also maybe you could chuck in the idea of it's often thrown at Luke Shaw. When Luke Shaw has that competition with him, you see the best of him. Are we seeing that with Trent? Because he also has that safety of going there. I think another option for them is very much needed, personally.
I think they have tried it. They played Gomez there a few times. And I think Liverpool are always trying to plug gaps with what's in the squad. So I don't disagree that maybe a Kyle Walker-Peters, depending on price, etc., is not the worst option in the world. Probably for those games where you go, Trent, you can play in midfield because you're not going to get pressed. And actually we can survive everything that comes with it. I just go back to the point of Klopp will go, he's forever played at right back. We've been right back. And that was... It could have killed Liverpool in the first half. Then they changed it. It's just been adaptable.
It wasn't a problem when you had, in my opinion, the energy of Henderson and Wijnaldum. Players who were so willing to cover so much of the pitch. And I do wonder if I honestly believe it's more... I think we all know by now what Trent Alexander-Arnold is really good at. I think there's an element of not reinventing the wheel with him. I could be wrong, obviously, and I think if Klopp's seen something, and we know how much ability he's got, but I don't think he's a problem here, and I don't think his position's a problem. I think it's around him.